This call dates back to September 2024, when Turkish politicians indicated an opening for a resolution of the Kurdish question. But how would that look? In 1923, the Republic of Turkey was founded after a national liberation war against the Western powers in Anatolia. The Kurdish people and the USSR supported the liberation at the time. But after its foundation, the Republic of Turkey was forced to accept the interests of the Western powers again, or risk being overthrown. Its missions were to prepare the ground for Israel and spread the nation-state model in the Middle East. Nowadays we see that the Arab nation has been divided into 22 nation-states, and Israel is the vanguard of capitalist modernity. Turkey has realized that the war in Gaza and Lebanon, which destroyed the Assad regime in a few days, could spread to its own territory. The Turkish state cannot manage a civil war on its own territory led by the Kurdish movement in these times. Abdullah Öcalan emphasizes the historic relationship between Turks and Kurds on mutual cooperation. The separation was created by the interventions of the forces of capitalist modernity. The solution Öcalan is proposing for over 30 years now is coexistence through the brotherhood of peoples. On this basis, numerous unilateral ceasefires and calls for peace have been launched by the PKK from the 1990s to the present day. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Öcalan realized that it would not be possible to resolve the Kurdish question with the framework of classical Marxism-Leninism. He saw society's problems in the system of power and state, emerging from patriarchy and the social oppression of women. In 1999, Öcalan was arrested by the CIA and Mossad and handed over to Turkey. Already during this period, the PKK was dissolved and restructured as the Kurdistan Freedom and Democracy Congress, which is working until today. Throughout the history of the PKK, hundreds of groups and organizations have been created. A movement in its own right has started. A potential dissolution of the PKK does not in any way imply the dissolution or end of this movement. On the contrary, it is the beginning of a new phase and a new form. The role of the PKK has been transformed over the last 2 decades, leaving the main role to the KCK, the system of democratic confederalism built up by the societies of Kurdistan. Leader Abdullah Öcalan's call must be understood through a long-term vision of society. Having studied human history in depth, Öcalan noted how all empires and states have collapsed. Only democratic society maintained its existence from the Neolithic to the present day. There is no alternative to democracy in the pursuit and realization of a political system. Democratic consensus is the fundamental way. This society is based on respect for identities, free self-expression, democratic self-organization of each segment of society based on their own socio-economic and political structures. At the global level, the nation-state system is meeting profound changes. There is a major conflict between the forces of capitalist modernity that insist on the status quo, while others push forward a new model for organizing capitalism. Öcalan's paradigm shows that a third way is possible by strengthening society through its democratic self-organization from below. And under the right conditions, it is possible to develop it by a mutual recognition agreement with the state. For this to happen, the forces of the state need to take certain steps to ensure that coexistence is possible. Öcalan confirms that before any dissolution, Turkey will have to put in place concrete actions that demonstrate its sincere intention and guarantee a legal framework for new politics. The first steps could be a ceasefire declared by Turkey, legal protection for the municipalities of the Dem Party, and the release of Abdullah Öcalan. Öcalan's words are clear. Either the Republic of Turkey transforms itself in depth and adopts concrete democratization, or it will not survive the second century of its existence. Abdullah Öcalan has done everything to ensure that a solution can be found. It is now Turkey's turn to take action and stop its war as soon as possible. The bombing of Rojava continues to this day, and chemical weapons are being used against guerrilla fighters in the mountains of northern Iraq. The commander of the People's Defense Forces declared on February 6th, "Today in Zap, our comrades and the soldiers of the Turkish state are fighting each other on a 200 meters distance. How can I tell the comrades there to lay down their arms?" A video statement would not be enough to convince the militants to lay down their arms, and for that to happen, Abdullah Öcalan had to be physically released and allowed to talk freely with him. What to do now? Every one of us has a role to play in this historic phase. Let's discuss Öcalan's paradigm, demand his physical release, and call on Turkey to act.